Repeal charters now. Repeal charters now. Repeal charter schools. We're here today to protest the role of Zuckerberg and other billionaires in education in New Jersey, education in California. These billionaires, first of all, are making decisions about what happens in education. They went to private schools. They went to Harvard and other schools. What do they know about education?
Ruben, I'm a special education teacher at Washington High School here in San Francisco, the San Francisco Unified School District. I'm also a member of the United Educators of San Francisco. And I just want to talk just briefly about special education and how it relates to charter schools. Now, in special education, overwhelmingly, the majority of students in special education are those who are disadvantaged in many ways. They have disabilities, they're socioeconomically disadvantaged. It's racial minorities, those different oppressed groups. And with charter schools, since charter schools have really increased, now special education is really losing out in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. It's going back to the dark ages. And a lot of this has to do with the lack of funding and for the most disadvantaged schools, those who have the lowest test scores, where there's a lot of students in special education who need the most help, who really need the education in order to make it. And any student who is at a charter school who has any kind of difficulties with learning or behavior or anything like that, kinds of students that you see in special education, if they end up in charter schools, they are so often abused in a horrendous way. They often use humiliation and embarrassment. At some schools, they have to wear signs around their necks saying that they're an idiot or a miscreant. And this is absolutely abuse that is not being regulated or checked in any way, because they're charter schools and they're exempt from all of that. These things would never happen at a regular public school. It can't happen because they have to abide by special education law. Charter schools are exempt from all of that, and that's how all of these things happen. And like the previous speaker said, these charter schools are are really deepening the divide, the socioeconomic divide in public education. They're cherry picking those who can go to the charter schools, those are the ones who don't tend to be very disadvantaged, and those who are most disadvantaged get left behind at these public schools that just keep failing worse and worse. They can't find. They're not getting as much funding. They're not getting as much resources. And the system of testing means that those lowest performing schools, and we all know where those are, they're not, like they said, they're not in the rich neighborhoods, they're in the poor neighborhoods. Those are the schools that are falling apart. They don't have the money or the resources, and they're closing at an alarming rate. In Oakland, we've had a lot of school closures at the same time that they're opening these charter schools. And now we have 25% of the students in Oakland are going to charter schools, while the schools that they left behind are falling apart and closing. And it's not a coincidence at all. It is very much related to this trend of charter schools opening. It is really bad for public education, any way you cut it.
All for being out here. This is really important. I really back up what the previous speaker said about what's the assault on the public schools, K through 12. I can tell you the same thing is happening at the community colleges. At City College, you probably all know we have been under siege by an accrediting agency, the Accrediting Commission for the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, the ACCJC. They have basically put City College on notice and tried to close City College because they said basically City College wasn't handling its finances right. It has nothing to do with quality of education. All the records, if you look at the official ones the state puts on the internet, show that City College does a better job than most in educating students. But this agency is out to basically try to close City College, and they're part of the same agenda that Mark Zuckerberg is behind with the charter schools. I mean, in the case of community colleges, we have what's called the Lumina Foundation. And the Lumina Foundation was started with money from the Student Marketing, it's Sallie Mae, Student Loan Marketing Association. Funds were taken from that to start this thing called the Lumina Foundation, which basically is under the influence of people like the Koch brothers, the ALEC, what's that? Someone help me out here. I'm all these acronyms. I'm starting. ALEC is the Legislative Exchange Council. That's what it is of the right wing, the American Legislative Exchange Council. So these folks are pushing charter schools on the K through 12, and at the community college level, what they're doing is saying, you guys need to trim way back because what we want you to do is train people to be workers. We want people to go through and get certificates really quickly. We want people who are smart enough, who don't need much remediation, to come in and transfer to the UC and other four-year schools. All that thing about the community being served, we don't want that. That is just too much. It's costing us too much to do that. So if you're retired and you want to take a class, there's no place for you in the vision of these folks at the Lumina Foundation. And so the whole accrediting system is following that model, and that's what we're under at City College, under the threat of this. And we've been fighting back, as I'm sure a lot of you know. But the fight has to go on. Right now, what they're doing with City College is we have to show by about a year from now, we have to file a report showing that we've met our accreditation standards 100%. We can't even be off by 0.1%. If we are, they will then declare that we are to be closed. They will take away our accreditation. Of course, we built up enough community support to know that if they do that, we will not be closed. The community won't stand for it. And we have to be out at demonstrations like this, supporting the K through 12 schools, supporting City College, because the agenda is the same. Let's privatize education. In the case of City College, let's let folks like the Academy of Art University take these students instead and indebt them for thousands and thousands of dollars with loans and then very low graduation rates. If you want to compare City College to the Academy of Art University, the Academy of Art University has never had accreditation problems that City College does. I mean, and that just shows you. I mean, the public school is the one that gets in trouble with the accreditation. And as I said, accreditation is really just the face of this whole wide agenda to privatize public education. Even at the UC system, we see a lot of cutbacks. I can't speak as much to that, but it's happening there too. So at all levels, CSU, UC, the community colleges, the tendency is to cut classes, make the offerings less for the community. And who does this hurt the most? It hurts the poorest students, the most vulnerable students, students of color, immigrants, and these are the people that are being left out. And we know that it's not without intention. So thank you all for being here. Keep fighting for public education. I hope you'll all be around to support us at City College too, because we're fighting for a contract. We haven't had a raise since before 2007, and our district is offering to give us what we got in 2007 plus 1% more, when we really need something like 20%. So there's going to be a lot of fighting needed to keep the quality of City College by attracting decent instructors. So That's a fight to watch out for, which I see as part of this overall attack on public education. It's attacked the teachers by offering low salaries that cannot pay for a person to live in a city like this one, and destroying the schools by other means like accreditation, which is all based on what are you doing with your finances? Are you stashing enough away in the bank so that we have access to it so that we can use it for our investments? That's what it's all about, not about education.
I'm a retired Oakland public school teacher. I taught at Castlemont High School in East Oakland. And I was on the executive board of the Oakland Teachers Union, the Oakland Education Association, and on state council of the statewide union, the California Teachers Association. Now in Oakland, the Oakland Unified School District was taken over by the state of California in 2003. It was taken over and essentially put in the hands of Eli Broad, the Los Angeles billionaire, who, like Mark Zuckerberg, and even before him, thinks that he knows what's best for our schools. And what's best for the schools, according to Eli Broad, is to run them like a business. He says school districts are like big corporations, and it would be insane to try to change that from the bottom. You have to change them from the top. Now, how did they change it from the top? He brought in a host of retired senior Army officers and business executives to run the district, paid them as consultants or brought them in at high six-figure salaries. Okay. Now, when the district was taken over ostensibly because we were $37 million in deficit. They were in Oakland for 6 years. They left. They had tripled the debt to $110 million. They tripled the debt while closing virtually every library, all but one in middle to top. Schools, libraries in many high schools, including at Castlemont High School where I taught, cutting classified staff, cutting food service workers, cutting clerical workers, cutting maintenance. They eliminated almost all of the about 90 maintenance workers. We're down to about 15. They did that to force schools who they put on individual budgets and told you have to live out of this budget and you have to pay for the services. You have to pay for copying. You have to pay for repairing windows. You have to buy telephones from Radio Shack. There was no money. Teachers were told in many schools, including mine, you have to bring your own copy paper in. And the copy machine was broken much of the time, so we actually definitely had to outsource. Now, what was done during those years has been spread around the country. They brought in charter schools. There were 2,000 students in charter schools, 2,037, in 2003 when the state took over. When they left, there were over 8,000. They're now over 11,000, about 12,000. I think it went from about 4% of enrollment in OUSD to 25%. 25% of students in Oakland Unified School District are now in charter schools. It's near the tipping point. Charter schools get public funding, but they are not publicly controlled. Their boards are privately selected. They're exempted from many sections of the state education code that protect students from abuse and protect staff from being victimized and from having their working conditions and due process and seniority and benefits and so on attacked. So what we're for is being able to bring innovation. We don't want the bureaucracy. That's what the school district bureaucrats want, and it really is also what the billionaires want. We don't want the bureaucracy. We don't want the high-stakes testing they brought in. We want the flexibility to be able to teach, and we want to have the academic freedom to be able to teach. We don't want to be told what to do by a few billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg, like Eli Broad, like Bill Gates, people who know nothing about education, who didn't go to public schools, who know nothing about educating kids, but are turning the model in the inner city into a charter school model, a model where students are not, we will no longer have public education. School boards won't be publicly elected. They'll be chosen by these billionaires like Broad, like Gates. They're taking democracy out of our hands. And what they also do is, in the name of decreasing inequality, they increase it. In affluent communities, there are charter schools. They set them up as enclaves for the rich and tell the students to go to resource-starved private schools where the rich no longer have to pay taxes. That's been done in Long Island, it's been done in the Peninsula, and something like that is approximating what's being done in Alameda now. This is grossly increasing inequality. It's the 1%, and really the 1/10 of 1%, imposing themselves on the rest of us. We have to take it out of their hands. We're going to have to organize to fight back and take it back. And that's going to require our stepping forward, putting pressure on not just on the elected politicians and school boards, but also on teacher unions. Teacher unions are the largest unions. They are close to half of organized labor now. The NEA is 3 million. AFT is 1.7 million. They do not lift a finger to fight these guys. We have to demand that our teacher unions step forward and take charge again and help us to make sure the public education stays public.
But people have said a lot of things about, his support for privatization of the public school system. But it's even more than that. His company, Facebook, admitted that the CIA was looking through the Facebook's pages. And if you don't believe me, you just got to read those news press clips, where it was revealed that he did collaborate with the Central Intelligence Agency to spy upon people on Facebook. So that's how this plutocrat is. The struggle against, privatization of public schools is an international matter. We, back home in Puerto Rico, these companies attempted to have charter schools, but, due to a lot of struggles waged by the teachers' unions, those attempts were enough. So that's what we have to continue doing, put up a fight and, avoid people like this plutocrat to be exploiting people, attempting to appropriate the public school system and give it to the corporations and supporting war and so on. So that's, practically what I have to say, and I keep the struggle, and long live the workers of the world.